Mute. Mr. Chairman, we are streaming live on YouTube, and at any time that you would like to get started, you can go ahead and do so.
Oh, okay, we can do that. Morning, everybody. Let's welcome ourselves to the virtual MetroPlan Orlando MAC meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name's Dale McDonald, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. We also have a team of folks working to ensure this meeting runs smoothly in spite of me. Today's meeting was advertised on MetroPlan Orlando's website and social media, as well as through targeted emails. Now, Florida's sunshine law requires a quorum to be physically present in a room for a government meeting. However, Governor DeSantis suspended this requirement in an executive order allowing government boards to conduct business using virtual meetings. Now, this order expired October 31st, so this meeting is being held in a workshop format. Now, staff will further explain what this means in just a moment. Now it's time for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask Mayor Dallas to lead us in the pledge. Everyone else, please remain on mute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I always knew John would be prepared for that. So now, moving forward, we have at today's meeting, we'll keep microphones muted unless you've been recognized to speak, and we'll use the raise hands feature to participate in discussion. Now, there are two public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public who want to speak will use the raise hands feature found in the participants tab. If attending by phone, you can hit *9 to raise your hand and request to be recognized. When you're called, your microphone will be temporarily unmuted by staff and will ask you to state your name and contact information for the record. We also accepted comments by email and phone message before the meeting. Now, the guidelines for public comments are posted at metroplanorlando.org/virtual meetings. Now, public comments received before the meeting will be read by the staff at the conclusion of the meeting. Now, we want this and all future online meetings to be accessible to all. Participants may join by computer, tablet, or phone. If you need accommodation to participate in the future, please contact MetroPlan Orlando. Since I have no additional comments, except that I hope everyone is staying warm, this time I'd like to recognize Virginia Whittington of the MetroPlan Orlando staff for agenda review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, members and all those who are joining online. Thank you all for working with us as we conduct these virtual meetings. We appreciate your patience and understanding. Based on direction from the board at their September meeting, this meeting, as the chairman mentioned, is being held as a virtual workshop in which action items will be reviewed and discussed, but no formal action will be taken. The board's action on these items will be ratified at a future in-person MAC meeting. And again, we thank you for your flexibility during this time. Also, as the chairman mentioned, we'll be using the raised hand feature to recognize committee members during the meeting and to call on members of the public during the public comment time. If you've joined us by phone only without video screen, please use *6 to mute and unmute your lines. And staff will send also a prompt for you to be able to speak. You can use the *9 to raise your virtual hand so that the meeting host will see that you wish to be recognized. You'll see that there's a chat feature on your toolbar. This communicates with all panelists in this meeting, which includes committee members, staff, and the presenters. Please only use this if you're having technical difficulties or if you need assistance. A full record of the chat comments will be included in the public record for this meeting. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments for this morning. There are no changes to the agenda, and if it's okay with you, we will move to Ms. Kathy Goldfarb to call the roll.
Ms. Kathy, you're on.
Okay, I'll ask all committee members to please go ahead and unmute yourselves now for the roll call. And you can go on mute again after your name is called. Please make sure your video is on if possible so we can confirm it's you. You'll find the unmute and video buttons on the bottom left side of your toolbar on the bottom of your screen. Please say here or present when your name is called. Cole, Dallas,
Here.
Drummond,
Here.
Burstner, Foraker,
Morning. Here.
Henson, Lacey,
Here or present.
Leary, Knight, McDonald,
Here.
McMullen,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
O'Brien, Sladik,
Here.
Trace.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Sounds like Miss Mathis is there for Mr. Cole.
Good morning.
There we go. Okay. Now we'll hear now any public comments on items presented for review and or discussion. Do we have people who want to speak in any of these on any of these items? If so, please use the raise hands function found at the bottom of your screen or by pressing *9 on your phone keypad. When we call your name, the host will unmute your microphone. We'll see a button pop up that says the host wants to unmute you. Accept that prompt to activate your microphone. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record. Please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. Are there any comments at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I do not see any hands.
All right, very good. That's moving along. Are there any written comments submitted before the meeting?
We did not receive any written comments, nor were there any phone messages left, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm glad to know everybody's paying attention today. Okay, we have 3 items for review and or discussion today. Now, our first item is a review of the minutes from our November 5th meeting, which are at tab 1 in your agenda packets. I hope you all had a chance to read them. Are there any corrections or revisions that need to be brought to the staff's attention? Hearing none, that these will be brought back later for formal approval at a future in-person meeting. Let's see. Our next item is the FDOT to fiscal year 2021 or 2020, 2021 through 2024-25 TIP on tab 2. And Mr. Caskey, would you like to present your information?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. The amendment that we have this month includes 4 projects. One of these is a new pedestrian lighting project in Orange County. And then there's additional funding for a traffic signal project at US 441 and State Road 50. And then Links has some funds rolling forward from 2020 to 2021 for their capital grant to purchase buses. And then there's a new advanced traffic operations project in downtown Orlando. And as the chairman mentioned, you all have the information in your packets. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Don't be bashful, folks. Any questions of Keith?
Mr. Chairman, I am giving a couple of seconds here to see if we have any hands raised. And I don't see any at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Let's see. Get my pages straight here. Our next item. Oh, here we go. Pages stuck together. Any written comments? No, we got all that. Okay. Our next item will be Miss Cynthia. You and Alex want to present your information. This is on the 2045 MTP cost feasible plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, this will be a tag team presentation today. And I'm happy to say this is our last stop on the journey to adoption of the 2045 plan. So next week, on Wednesday, December 9th at 9 a.m., the MetroPlan Orlando board will be taking this up as an action item and hopefully adopting the 2045 plan. So last month, if you remember, we gave you quite an in-depth overview of the contents of the plan. And so you've had about a month to take a look at those documents and chew on that a little bit. So today what we're going to be presenting is the public input that we've received on the draft plan. And then Alex will be going over some of the updates that we've made to the plan in response to some agency comments. So he'll let you know what we tweaked. And as if you want to take a look at tab 3 in your agenda packets, that's where you'll find all the supporting information. So at that tab, you have a board action fact sheet. That is a one-page overview of what the board will be taking up next week. You also have an adopting resolution at that tab as the board does adopt the plan by resolution. And then you will find also the full record of public comments that we received on the draft plan. So next slide, please. First, I'll share with you some feedback that we received from our public meeting on the 2045 plan. We held this on November 9th, and we called it 2045 Plan The Reveal. We had great attendance at this virtual public meeting, about 100 attendees at the live event. About 42% of those were return participants. So it was good to see that a lot of these folks had given us input earlier in the process and were sticking with us to see what the final results would be of the long range plan. And the webinar recording has been viewed more than 200 times on our YouTube channel, and that is still available. So if you want to take a look or share that, you're certainly more than welcome to do so. So what we did at this public meeting was give an overview of the different plans. We had a great panel discussion among staff members on some policy issues related to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, some of the challenges and opportunities in planning for the future. And then we did some audience polling throughout. You'll find the results from one of the poll questions here on the bottom half of this slide. So as you all know, we have quite a large portion of unfunded needs for our plan to really make our vision a reality. So we asked, if money fell out of the sky tomorrow for the plan, how would you want to spend it? And the results varied a little bit across the board here, but as you can see, the more popular ones were more transit, so more bus and rail, smart signals and technology, safety projects. So those are kind of our top 3 things that people wanted to see more of. And that really was very consistent with what we've been hearing from the public all along. So it was good to see that consistency in the feedback. Next slide, please. So our public comment period for the draft plan was a little bit over a month. It went from October 16th through November 20th. And in that time, we received some really great, thoughtful public comments. And hopefully you've had the chance to read through all those as the full text of each of those is included in your packets. But I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of some of the more popular topics. And you'll see a few of the popular topics here in this chart. So most of the large majority of the comments had to do with transit. Funding was a very popular topic as well. And so I'll go down this list and we can move to the next slide, Kathy, please. So we took actually all the feedback that we received and we fed it into a word cloud generator. And the big thing that I took away from this when I first saw it, I was like, wow, you can really see the linkage between people and transportation when you look at this. You know, transportation is something that really directly affects quality of life. And that came through in the public comments that we received. So transit, of course, is the big thing that pops out immediately is the most popular word. So the transit comments really varied quite a bit, but the general sentiment there was that the public would really like to see a transit system that is more convenient, that runs more frequently, that has routes going to more destinations, better first and last mile connections. Several commenters discussed the importance of transit in supporting access for underserved communities across our region. Some also suggested perhaps taking a look at combining some of the transit organizations under one umbrella in the future to better serve our goals. And we did have most of the comments that we received on the draft plan did come from individuals, but we received a few that came from different organizations or advocacy groups. On the transit side, an advocacy group called Central Floridians for Public Transit submitted quite a lengthy letter urging for more transit in the region, more funding. They had many suggestions for improvement. So if you want to read those, they are at comment number 38 in your packets. And very closely related to transit was the second most important or popular topic, which was funding. So a lot of the comments on funding really spoke to the need for a dedicated funding source for transit to really, since transit was the biggest portion of unfunded needs, they really wanted us to work on that. Other commenters on funding, though, wanted to see investment in other areas, specifically bicycle and pedestrian area. So they wanted more bicycle facilities, sidewalks, crosswalks, things that would improve safety in that area. And a few other comments even offered some solutions on the funding side that really spoke to the need to take a look at funding models to replace the gas tax. Most of the comments that came in really varied quite a bit, a lot of different topics, so we put them in a general category. But there were several geographic areas that popped out. People wanted to see an improvement in transportation in their particular neighborhood. A few of those areas that were called out were East Orange County, the Avalon Stony Brook area, the Rosemont area in West Orange County, Point Siena down in Osceola, and Four Corners as well. We had a lot of comments that came in with thanks and compliments for our planning efforts, which we certainly appreciated. Another popular area for comments was on a specific project of Corinne Drive. As you all know, we did a complete streets study looking at Corinne Drive and came up with a recommended design. That study wrapped up last year. And so a lot of the residents are still staying in touch with us and advocating for their project, and they really would like to see that constructed. So we are really working on trying to get that funded as quickly as possible. We're hopeful that we could, in our next CIP next year, try and get that construction funded. So we are still actively working on that. Bicycle and pedestrian was another big area that had a lot of comments. We received comments from Bike Walk Central Florida, which is the advocacy group that also runs the Best Foot Forward for Pedestrian Safety initiative. Bike Walk was praised the kind of multimodal direction that we're moving in with the plan, but they're encouraging more spending on bicycle and pedestrian projects, of course, to really address that safety for our more vulnerable road users. And we also received comments from the Florida Trail Association. They were interested in including the Florida National Scenic Trail in our maps for our plans. And they were also advocating for a land bridge across the 528 from Deseret Ranch to the Housecott Preserve to allow hikers to make that crossing there. So that is something that they would like to see come to life in the future. Technology was another area. Of course, you can't talk about the year 2045 without talking about technology. So we had some specific types of tech that folks thought we should be considering, and the city of Orlando noted that they're working on their future ready plan, which focuses on technology. And finally, we had comments in the environmental area. The Florida Forest Service let us know that they reviewed the plan. They noted that there's no big impacts to the 2 state forests in the area, but they did note a couple of things that we should look at environmental considerations for the future. So that was very helpful from them. So that's what I've got on the public input front. At this point, I will hand it off to Alex, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the updates to the cost feasible plan.
Certainly. Thanks, Cynthia. Members of MAC, good morning. Today's presentation, really what I'm going to be focusing on is really answering this question here. What has changed since the last time we presented this information to you last month? So we can go to the next slide, please. And this is really in a nutshell. We have been coordinating both with your local staffs and our other partner agencies as part of our local review. So we've gone through those lists, all 10 of them, and reviewed limits and have updated limits accordingly. And we'll be updating lengths based on that, so we can have what we call logical termini. So those are we also remove duplicate projects. So in some cases, we had a handful of projects that we had multiple projects on the same corridor. In those cases where we had kind of a safety need, an operational need, or complete street need, those needs were combined into one project rather than having kind of duplicate or overlapping projects of different types. So that was accounted for, as part of our agency review. Along the same lines, project descriptions were changed. There were a handful of cases where we updated projects that were previously widening projects, maybe a 2 to 4 lane, where based on agency review, there's actually more of a desire to stick with the current number of lanes and focus more on the complete streets approach to safety, accessibility, and improving reliability without adding additional travel lanes. So those project descriptions were updated accordingly. We also coordinated and heard feedback from our local government partners about available funding resources, both for our toll providers and for our local governments. We misinterpreted, some of those financial forecasts, and we've made those updates to ensure that we're including all eligible and available capital improvement program funds to be consistent with kind of near-term documents. And then based on all of that, we've revised our documentation. We're still getting feedback from our local partners, so we're constantly kind of reviewing that, making sure that it is as right as possible. We made a few more changes this week. We had the Holden Gatlin intersection on Orange Avenue. Previously, we didn't include the cost for the rail location as part of that project. So, we're updating that cost to ensure that it includes the full realm of that project, which is both the intersection improvement and the associated and necessary rail changes based on that relocation. Because of this cost increase, some of our partially funded projects later in the plan, kind of in that 2040, 2045 period, are now unfunded. And we also had one update to an Osceola project, Neptune Road. It was an off-system project where when we conducted kind of an overhaul to our GIS system, we updated the limits incorrectly, which kind of put it in the wrong direction. So we've updated that based on feedback from the county, but that did not impact cost feasibility of any projects on that list. So that's really the plan in a nutshell. Not too many changes, more fine tuning, more than kind of what we call substantial changes. That's kind of part of this living planning document. So with all of those changes and with all of that being said, we can go to the next slide, please. We're looking at a 27.9, almost a $28 billion plan. Again, as I talked about last presentation, almost over half of those funds are toll revenues, which are operated and funded, by the Central Florida Expressway Authority and Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. But really the focus of our organization in this planning exercise is really those federal, state, and local funds, which make up, just a little less than 50% of the entire transportation picture. So we can go to the next slide, and I'll just briefly talk about how those funds are being spent at the federal, state, and local level. A lot of investment on I-4, continuing the I-4 Ultimate project. But again, like I presented last month, our northern and southern ultimate configurations, or eastern and western, depending how you're looking at it on the map. Our state roads, make up a big portion of our system, our major arterials. And those projects include all types of projects, from complete streets and operational projects, technology reliability, as well as safety improvements. So again, like I said last month, don't let that chart label fool you. That really is and truly is a multimodal project list. We have $298 million we're spending on off-system widening projects. These are traditional state funds that are eligible to be spent to assist our local governments in solving some of their congestion and capacity challenges. So we're flexing those funds to support our local government partners' needs. The remaining categories: systems management and operations, complete street, ped bike. Those three follow our board's policy for allocating our urbanized area funds. So those kind of are based on eligibility. Small percentage when you put it in the big bucket, but when you look at those particular percentage, they actually range in the the 20 to 30% of actually of those funds available. And local funds also make up a big portion of of our funding. In that label, just like the state roads label, are multimodal projects. You have safety projects, trail projects, intersection improvements, and really everything in between. So that's really what's made up of that almost $13.2 billion in funds. So we can go to the next slide. I'm going to briefly talk about some of those new programs that we have as part of the 2045 plan, some that we're continuing, some that are new. One of those continuing programs that we have had in the past about 5 years now is our regional signal retiming program that we coordinate with DOT and our local government partners. We're going to continue that through the life of our plan, $2 million a year. Also on the technology or systems management front, our demonstration projects are allocating $250,000 a year for autonomous, connected, electric, and shared vehicle demonstration projects. So this is going to be a seed funding program to really, allow our local governments to start looking, using their municipalities as test beds for advanced technology. As Cynthia said, hard to plan for the future if you're not considering kind of those high technology solutions. Active transportation and accessibility are critical elements of this plan as well. And that's what you'll see with the school mobility program. So this is a complement to FDOT's Safe Routes to School program. We're providing kind of exactly what that is, sidewalk connections to public schools with focus on elementary school. But we also have $2 million a year dedicated to filling critical sidewalk gaps, throughout the region. So those are new programs that we haven't had in previous plans, but based on feedback, based on our needs assessment, those are obvious needs that we need to address. So we're targeting funds so we can accomplish our goals in those topic areas. We're going to continue our support for local governments by conducting planning studies. We have conducted a few of those over the past few years in Belle Isle, Oakland, the city of Orlando, and a couple other locations. We're going to continue that $2 million a year, special studies, corridor sub-area studies. The work that we'll be conducting in Oviedo is kind of one of those types of projects where we're looking at connectivity and supporting our local partners. I mentioned the local road widening previously, $298 million, but also what's important to note on this slide is we're following through with our board's priority or policy rather relating to premium transit and spending up to 30% of our district dedicated revenue on premium transit services. Based on this plan and funding availability, those funds will start being eligible to be spent in the year 26 through 2045, the last 10 years of our plan. Next slide, please. So, previously we've been reviewing a lot of these by lists. Over the past few weeks, we've done a pretty substantial, and we're continuing that GIS overhaul to make sure that all of our products are accessible online, but also easily to navigate and highly visualize, using kind of web-based tools. So we've uploaded both our multimodal needs and our cost feasible projects to our data viewer. Links at the bottom of the screen, but that can be found in the Maps and Tools link on our Maps and Tools page on our website, along with some of the other interactive mapping tools that we have. So that's going to be constantly updated, and we're iterating through that now, but we wanted to make sure that we had a more visualized product that you could review and our local partners as well as the public could review, kind of seeing what's happening in your neighborhood and around you. That's really all I have today. We can go to the next slide. And this is really where, we normally be asking for your recommendation today, but because of the workshop format, we really just want to kind of gather consensus and provide enough feedback to where Mayor McDonald can provide in his report to the board kind of the sentiment of the MAC. So, with that being said, what do you think? And I'll kind of open it up for discussion and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Don't be bashful, anybody. Anything for Alex or Cynthia?
Mr. Chairman, I'm scanning for hands. And And I do hope that we have at least one question from someone.
Well, I'm going to throw one in if we don't, or at least a comment regarding obviously a need that we know is not going away, and whether the timeliness of it works out as we would like or not. We've got to talk about a transportation surtax in Orange County. So in terms of funding sources, we can't pretend that these needs aren't real and that they aren't coming. So appreciate all your work. And again, Alex, want to thank you a lot for being able to participate in the process here as this came together. Come on, you guys. I know you got some questions. Please.
I'm scanning, Mr. Chairman, and I don't see any hands.
Well, wow. Okay.
If anything comes up, though, I apologize, Mr. Chair. No questions now, but if anything comes up, feel free to reach out to Cynthia, Nick, or I via email or phone. We'd be more than happy to answer any of those questions or address any comments that you may have. Thank you.
And now that the mapping tool is up, I would encourage you all, you can go to our website, MetroPlanOrlando.org, and click on Maps and Tools. And the data viewer is what you want to look at so that you can actually zoom into your jurisdiction and see what projects are coming in the next 25 years to your area. So there's a lot of layers that you can click on and off if you're interested in a certain type of project. You can see what's coming to your jurisdiction.
Yeah, I've been bugging Nick about Maitland and Maitland for a while, so I'm sure that's going to be coming up in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So I always encourage everybody to reach out. These guys have done a terrific job. Are there any other presentations on today's agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have any other presentations on the agenda, but I do know that DOT has at least one announcement that I think she'll be making during public comment, during the member comment segment. And also, we have not heard from the Links team in a while, and I know that Miles O'Keefe is on with us, and if he has a report that he'd like to give, it might be an opportunity for that as well.
It's all yours, Miles.
All right, I appreciate that. And pre-apologies for the 16-month-old yelling in the background, if you happen to catch that. So some of you may have seen recently, we unveiled our first electric bus to operate along the limo service downtown. We do have several more vehicles on their way. So we are just going through our protocols for testing. We set up a partnership with OUC to install the charging infrastructure at the Links Operations Center. They're off of Links Lane near Princeton and John Young. So this is very exciting for us to see how it all play out in the region. Other than that, we have begun work on our National Transit Database update. It's an annual requirement by the Federal Transit Administration, kind of a report card on what happened this past year. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of caveats and asterisk marks for all the data, and they get that, given that 2020 is very different from what any previous year has been in terms of operations for us. Other than that, I have nothing to report, but always welcome to questions and inquiries that I can come back with for the committee at a later time.
All right, thanks, Miles. Are there any other items under general information at tab 6? Or there are some items there.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just call attention to one item that is there. I mean, all of them are equally important, and you all typically use those comparisons of the beaver population estimates for your use, so I'd like to call attention to that. Also, the final version of your Municipal Advisory Committee bylaws are provided for your use and information. Those were adopted by the MetroPlan Orlando Board at their November meeting, so a copy of those are available for you.
All right, very good. Ms. Virginia, anything I'm missing here? We've got our next MAC meeting will be in February.
Next MAC meeting is February 4th. And again, a correction to that time. You are continuing with your 9:30 time. That was an inadvertent carryover from another agenda. So my apologies. The meeting time is 9:30.
Very good. Mayor McDonald screwed up with that. And that MAC meeting in February will be virtual as well.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good. It would be, I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to recognize a couple of new folks sitting with us. Mayor Drummond and Mayor Henson, if you would like to, share any words with us right now, it'd be great.
Okay. Mayor Drummond and Mayor Henson, if you'd like to unmute. If not, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to note that we will be conducting orientations with both mayors prior to your February meeting. And
Okay.
we do have a hand by Ms. Rakenya Henson with DOT.
Ms. Rakenya, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. I just didn't want to miss my opportunity before you moved on to the, to the public comments. I just had three small, brief interjections that I'd like to include. The first being in regards to allocations to the Department of Transportation. The department has received their allocations for this funding cycle, and we are currently working with MetroPlan Orlando staff to work through their priorities so that we can make sure that we fund as many of those priority projects as possible through this program development cycle. We have taken a hit district-wide in regards to finances, but we are not looking to affect this current year's program cycles with those priority projects. We are utilizing as many funds as we can possibly use to make sure that we progress as many projects as we can for this current fiscal year. Also of note is the work program public hearing has been rescheduled for January 11th through the 15th with an in-person meeting planned for the evening of January the 14th at the district office in DeLand. As more details develop, we'll be sure to share those with the boards and the committees. And we anticipate presenting the work program during the February-March cycle of meetings, and we'll be working with the MPO staff to get those scheduled. And also of note is the construction report coming from the department on a monthly basis. We've tried to make those a little bit more user-friendly and easier to understand. So you should look for the change in your next round of reports. Those reports, we basically haven't changed the information, just used it more as a at-a-glance type format so that it makes it easier on the eyes and more straightforward to be able to read. But if anyone has any questions or comments about the new formatting or any kind of comments, please feel free to send them our way. We look forward to making that as user-friendly as possible. And those are all the comments I have for this morning.
Okay, thanks, Rakenya.
You're welcome.
Okay, if any members of the public, let's go to the public comments. If any members of the public wish to comment, please use the raise hands function and you'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll unmute your mic. After you're recognized, please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 2 minutes or less. Okay, do we have any comments at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any hands, but let's just give it a second.
Yeah.
No, there are no hands raised.
Any, Virginia, any written or phone comments that were submitted before the meeting?
Mr. Chairman, we did not receive any written or phone comments.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mayor Drummond and Mayor Henson, anything you want to share with us when you have the opportunity now? All right, well, hearing none at this time, if there is no further business, I'd like to wish all of you a happy and safe holidays, and we are forever in the staff's debt, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good holiday, everybody.
Hey, y'all be careful.